Thank you for staying with us on Mirror Now. Our top focus at this point of time, the Supreme Court today took up a batch of petitions seeking legislation of same-sex marriages. The CJI-led bench has decided to send the case to a larger bench, and now a 5-judge bench will be hearing the case on April 18. CJI Chandrachud also said that the case is of seminal importance. And during the hearing, the petitioners cited the decriminalization of Article 377 and said that they have the right to love. But the centre said that cases like these must be dealt in the parliament and not in the court. The petitioners also demanded live streaming of the case, and the top court has agreed to stream the hearing of the case live. My colleague Harish is joining me for more on this. Harish, take us through the developments coming in as far as the Supreme Court now taking up the matter of... all right, we have lost that connection with my colleague there, but we'll quickly get him back on board. But this is the latest news we are tracking for you. The Supreme Court today took up a batch of petitions that sought legislation of same-sex marriages. At this point of time, during the hearing, the petitioners have cited and they rather said that they have the right to love, but the centre, on the other hand, said the cases like these must be dealt in Parliament and not in the court. The petitioners also, on the other hand, demanded live streaming of the case hearing, and the top court has also agreed to the same. My colleague Harish is back with us on the broadcast to give us details. Harish, take us through all the updates and the details that you're gathering as far as the hearing in Supreme Court is concerned regarding the legislations of the same-sex marriages, what the CJI said, what the petitioners had said. Give us the entire details.
Yes, in fact, a very significant development as far as the pleas seeking legal recognition to same-sex marriage is concerned. Noting that the issue is very important, a seminal issue, the Chief Justice has decided that a constitution bench will hear the matter. Remember, at present, the matter was being heard by a 3-judge bench. The Supreme Court has very clearly said that now that the issue will be referred to a larger constitution bench, which means 5 judges will hear the matter. And not only this, Supreme Court has very significantly also decided that the next date of hearing, that is on April 18th, the hearing of this matter will be live streamed for the benefit of all those who are interested in this matter. Remember, the petitioner's lawyer said that this is a very serious issue and large sections of the community is interested in this matter, so they should be live streamed. So that request has been agreed to by the Supreme Court bench, which means that the hearing will be live streamed for the benefit of the public. Supreme Court has given petitioners time to respond to the centre's affidavit and has adjourned the matter till April 18th. Remember, centre had opposed the legislation. The centre in its affidavit said same-sex marriage is not in conformity with societal morality and Indian ethos, and courts should stay away, let the parliament decide. The Solicitor General Tushar Mehta for the centre has said this. Remember, this Supreme Court has now deferred hearing after petitioners sought time to file response to the affidavit filed by the centre. Remember, opposing the petition, centre had told Supreme Court that it is not in the same-sex marriage is not in conformity with societal morality and Indian ethos. A centre through Solicitor General Tushar Mehta submitted that legislative understanding of marriage in the Indian statutory and personal law regime refers only to marriage between a biological man and a biological woman, and any interference would cause a complete havoc with the delicate balance of personal laws in the country and in accepted societal values. The Supreme Court in the order remarked that the issue involves several acts, including Special Marriage Act. One of the issues raised is also right of transgender couples. So having due regard to the larger context, constitutional rights, so let the issues be heard by a larger bench, a constitution bench. So let the matter be placed before a constitution bench. So, in fact, the Solicitor General Tushar Mehta urging the court to leave the issue to Parliament, the centre asserted that any recognized deviation can occur only before the competent legislature. It also said, despite the decriminalization of Section 377 of IPC, the petitioners cannot claim a fundamental right for the same-sex marriage to be recognized under the laws of the country. On the part of the petitioners, admitted that the Special Marriage Act is of India to extend that discriminates between same-sex couples and opposite-sex couples, denying same-sex couples both legal rights as well as the social recognition and status that flow from marriage. They also cited, as you rightly said, Navtej Singh Johar judgment, which decriminalized homosexual acts and also upheld LGBTQ persons' right to equality, dignity, and privacy. So these were the arguments and counter-arguments, and the biggest takeaway is that the matter has been referred to a larger constitution bench, a 5-judge bench will hear the matter, and the very important proceedings will be live-streamed for the benefit of the Indian public.
I believe that Indians are a very tolerant people, and when it comes to the extension of rights especially, I'm sure that a lot of people would be very happy for the extension of rights to a greater majority.
Hi. Yeah, Niharika, one.
All right, at this point of time, Mr. Swapnil Kothari is joining us. He's a lawyer. Mr. Kothari, when it comes to same-sex marriages, now the Supreme Court taking up the batch of petitions that sought legislation of same-sex marriages, the CJI decided to send the case to a larger bench, and now a 5-judge bench will be hearing the case on April 18. What is your reaction to this, and how do you see the entire matter? What are the legal shortcomings of this if such a law is passed, if this is not at this point of time banned at this point, given that it is for the petitioners there?
Well, I believe the petitioners are going to succeed in this. The Supreme Court will allow same-sex marriages because not allowing that would be violative of Article 14 of the Constitution, because there is no rational differentiation between same-sex people and opposite-sex people. If two people decide to live with each other, if they are allowed, as per Section 377 reading down by the Delhi High Court, which decriminalized homosexuality, then why can't they get married? Just as the same-sex opposite-sex couple who decide to live in together and eventually want to get married, they are allowed to get married. So why not the same-sex people also? If they are allowed to have sex, why can't they get married? So the simple question is that what is the harm? Now, the central government has come up with some very absurd arguments, in my opinion, that Indian cultural ethos will be violated, Indian democracy will go into shambles, there will be a complete tectonic shift in, the way we look at the institution of marriage and all of those things. And just because they're allowed to have sex does not mean that there is a concomitant right under Article 19, which is the right to association, to also get married. Now, these are all apprehensions, and I do not know why they have these apprehensions. And I believe before, passing the order, Mr. Justice Chandrachud, Chief Justice, did observe that just because a lesbian couple decides to get married and have a child, adopt a child, etc., likewise, so that doesn't mean that that's going to be a lesbian, or a homosexual couple will become a homosexual child. So I think that was enough indication as to where the bench was heading and what kind of a ruling are we going to have. So I believe that it will be a great milestone in the history of India, modern India, should I say, that when this same-sex marriage is going to be allowed, which I believe it will be allowed. Now, also there was another apprehension that we should not follow Western judgments, or Western influences should not be there. That is what the government said, and we should stick to the Indian cultural mindset. Now, it's very absurd. You and I are talking in English right now, which is not our language, which has been borrowed from England, which they taught us when they ruled us. Secondly, our constitution is based on the parliamentary democracy, which is a part of the UK constitution. The fundamental rights which you and I are all enjoying today in this country are borrowed from the US Bill of Rights, which is part of the US constitution. The directive principles of state policy, which are not mandatory but directory, are borrowed from the French constitution. The emergency provisions are borrowed from the German constitution. So to say that we don't have Western influence is an absurdity. Day in, day out, we lawyers are citing English court judgments, US court judgments, Australian court judgments to buttress our own arguments in a court of law when we deal with our own personal legal matters as well for our clients. So all these arguments are not going to hold any water with the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court will look at it purely from the prism of Article 14, Article 19, Article 21. Article 19 is right to association, Article 14 is your equality, and Article 21 is right to personal life and liberty. Obviously, personal life means that I should be able to get married to anyone that I want to get married if there are consenting adults. And I have reached the age of majority, and I'm allowed to get married by law. So I don't see any reason why two people of the same gender should not be allowed to get married. And that is what the Supreme Court is going to say. If you're going to say, why should they get married? I'm going to ask as a Supreme Court judge, why not? And I don't think there is an answer to that, a satisfactory answer to that, from the government side. So it's going to be a very interesting legal battle. I do not know how the Solicitor General is going to hold his fort as far as this is concerned, because I'm going to possibly see a phalanx of very, very ferocious arguments for the petitioners to argue on behalf of them as far as promoting same-sex marriage is concerned. And it's time that India graduates to that extent as other countries. And and one of the most interesting parts here is that we don't have the US kind of states where different states have different laws. We'll have one law, which is a good thing. So 125 crore people will know. And Article 141 of the Constitution says that this law declared by the Supreme Court is a binding on all parts, on all individuals and all the courts in the country. So we have to follow it.
All right, Mr. Kothari, point taken there. We are running short of time on that note. We will, of course, get you back. But as of now, we know that same-sex marriages hearing is slated to happen. And earlier, the Law Minister, Kiran Rijiju, defended centre's stand in the top court, saying that the policy framework is necessary for marriages in India. Now, the Law Minister also said that the government doesn't intend to interfere in anyone's personal life. Now, let me tell you, earlier, the centre had filed an affidavit before the Supreme Court opposing the legal recognition of same-sex marriage in India. In its affidavit, which had been filed before the Supreme Court, the centre had said that living together as partners and having sexual relationship by same-sex individuals is a different concept and cannot be compared with Indian family unit concept. Now, the centre had also argued that registration of marriage of same-sex persons results in violation of existing personal law provisions.
Government is not interfering into the personal life, personal activities of anybody. So there should be no confusion or there should be no dilution in this matter. When it comes to an issue related to the institution of marriage, then it is a matter of policy. Personal freedom and personal activities of individuals, of the citizens, have never been questioned, disturbed or regulated by government.